Hey yo, Ice Gang. I'm heading halfway around the world, so I'm gonna make a beat in every city that I go to. This is Beats Around the World. Let's go. Hey yo guys, we have landed in Madrid, Spain. Not gonna lie, that flight was horrendous. It took about 30 hours in total between stopping over at different airports and flying to finally get here. I'm super stoked, but the grind isn't over yet. My girlfriend just went in for surgery and it's gonna be about 4 to 6 hours, so we are back to opening up samples from the Cymatics Mayhem pack. I'm gonna use the origin sample that we cut from last video. Let's try to do the sample some justice, man. The first thing I did was reverse the sample. I cut that shit up just like normal. Listening to this section of the beat, I've got an idea for the bass. I don't really want to use the bass that's already in there. I want to make my own. I went into the sample and I quickly popped it on Stretch Pro. What this means is that I can use a format tool that's inside FL Studio. Basically, it means I can stay in the same key but move the sample higher or lower without changing any of the notes. I'm quickly going to EQ that, cut some of the lows, and then cut some of the highs as well. Before we leave the mixer, I'm just going to pop a RC20 on it. I just want to add some effects to make this stand out a little bit more. I'm going with my usual, the wobble, distortion, and space effects. Sounding pretty dope so far. Now it's time to add this bass. If you've been watching for a while, you know I'm looking for that turkey bass. There it is. Let's go. The reason I didn't want to use the bass that's already in the sample is because I wanted to have more control over what's happening. I wanted to add my own slides and kind of change up the notes how I wanted. This melody sounds cool, but it's not quite right. I'm going to drop it back down a B. Alright, the sample's kind of coming together now. I ended up moving this part of the bass up a whole octave. I just thought the variation brought a nice change to this pattern. Now I'm looking for something else to add a little bit of texture and a bit of a note change. This high string kind of effect sounds real cool. I'm just going to go ahead and create some kind of progression with it. Alright man, so I was kind of vibing a drill track at this point, but it didn't really turn out that way. I'm just going to go ahead and add this percussion in there. It sounds really cool. I think I can kind of use it like you would a gunshot in a drill song. Nothing crazy, just nice and subtle. It's time to get into the drums. I'm going to choose an 808 first. I can't stay away from the Zay 808, man. It's so good. I'm just going to go ahead and feel out this 808 pattern. I'm kind of going to be following the bass progression here. So we end on B, and then we're going to go back to D sharp. I'm just going to pop in a clap here now. Quickly copy and paste that all over and change the velocities. Now I'm going to pop in an accent snare. It just kind of helps the beat flow a bit better. For the end of this bar, I'm just going to have a little roll. I'm going to click Alt-A for the arpeggiator and basically kind of bring those notes downwards. Right here, I'm just going to make the clap a little bit shorter. It just feels a little bit too long. It's not sitting in the pocket like I want it to. I'm going to add a two-step hat and then go in and tweak that. First, I'm going to do a velocity change. Just make every second note a little bit lower than the first. That's going to make it seem a little less computerized. I'm vibing an open hat here, so I'm going to go for this escape one. It's a little too long, so I'm just going to make that a bit shorter. For the second half of the pattern, I'm just going to have like a delayed version of that hat, similar to what I did with the percussion earlier. Not really the hat I'm looking for, so I'm just going to have a bit of a look for a couple of other ones. That one sounding a bit better, the Mafia one. Oh, of course, it's going to mess up like that. Oh, man. Alright, now we're good. We're good. I'm just going to create some kind of melody here on the low end of the hats to add a bit more bounce. At this point, I'm not really sold on the clap. I feel like it could hit a little bit harder. So I'm going to go with this Big Sean snare here, and it's a little bit too low. So I'm going to pitch that up a bit too. Ah, that sounds way better. I'm not really convinced on the BPM either, so I'm just going to play around with it for a little bit. I'm still not convinced. Like, there's a lot more space in this, but it's just not quite right. I don't know. I'm just going to keep it for now, and maybe we'll change it later. Alright, I'm just going to split that up and start building up this beat. Alright, last thing we're going to do is copy over this 808 to the kick. Then I'm going to have that kick come in later for more bounce. I'm just going to quickly move everything over to D sharp. Make sure that the kick's hitting on the same note. Right here, I'm just going to add a couple more notes to get the bounce right. Alright man, that sounds pretty dope. Let's go. Alright man, we got one more BPM switch up. I ended up going back to 145, which is the first BPM we were on. So I kind of did all of that for nothing, but now I know it slaps in 145. Before we get into this playthrough, I just want to take you through how I built this beat up. So I really wanted to differentiate the bass section from the 808 section. So I kind of felt like the bass was more like the hook. The bass is what makes the hook different from the rest of the song. So basically when we have that sub bass coming in, that's the hook section, and when we have the 808 hitting, that's the verse. Firstly, we start off with the 8-bar intro right into the hook. Once we play the 8-bar hook, we're gonna drop into a verse, a 16-bar verse. This beat reminds me a lot of like Lil Baby, so I want it to be like short and sweet, and I want it to be evolving really, really quickly. As we come into that second section of the verse, we're gonna have the kick layered on top of that 808 just to add that extra bounce, and then we have the pad coming in there as well for a little bit of extra variation. Once that verse is finished, we drop straight back out to the hook. No drums on this section of the hook. Once we get through the second hook, we're gonna drop back into the 808 and then layer the second part of the verse with the kick, just like we did with the first verse. For the last hook, I went and added some drums. So I've just got some hats and claps. I just wanted it to be a little bit different from the hook that just played. The last hook we played for a 16 instead of an 8-bar. So I've got the kick coming in for that section and then the accent snare as well. We're also swapping out the clap for the snare in this section just so it hits a little bit harder. And then we drop back into verse 3, which has the kick playing straight away this time. And then we come in with the pad in the second half of the verse. From there, it's just an outro. It's up to the artist if they want to have like their hook playing at the end again. Let's have a playthrough, man.
Where the fuck is Lawn at?
That is your beat right there, man. Next episode, we really start kicking things off, man. I went and visited this cathedral in Madrid. I'm no longer in the hospital. We're done with the first surgery, so we were exploring Madrid a bit, and we went to this awesome-ass cathedral. There were so many insane things to see then. I've got some footage playing right now, but I definitely got the inspiration for like an orchestral drill vibe. So I'm gonna be cooking up something sick inspired from the cathedral we went to. You don't wanna miss this one. I will catch you next week when we make some more heat, man. Let's go.
Where the fuck is Lawn at?